Welcome back. Today we're going to frame out the entryway. So before the rains came, I was able to get this skeleton frame of the entryway up. The pitch of this roof is going to be 1.5 12 going back into the 3.5 12 main pitch of the roof. And if you can see that pony wall on the top of the edge of the roof, that is going to be the sort of midpoint wall where the rafters will land. And I'm going to use the height of that pony wall to determine the height of the top plate for this exterior wall where the entryway door will be. And that main wall where the entryway door will be is going to end up being about 13 feet tall. And so I didn't want to build the entire wall and raise it just because it was too large. So I'm going to build it in place. And today it's a little bit less of a solo build because I had a couple of neighbors come by and help out. It's just enormously helpful having somebody else around to help hand tools, or so I don't have to keep climbing up and down the scaffolding quite so much. So we were really able to attack this a bit more efficiently. So thanks to my neighbors for stopping by and helping out. So similar to other areas of the build in the house, the way I came to the height for this second top plate for the entryway wall is from the pony wall. I have that height. I also have the distance from the pony wall to the entryway, and then I can calculate the rise based on the 1.5 per 12 pitch of the roof. And so that gives me the measurement that I need in order to situate that top plate on that entryway wall so that the rafters will land properly, and so I cut the birds' mouths correctly, and then it will flow back and meet the edge of the roof on the main roof itself. Now that we have the main frame established, I'm going to start with the king studs for the wall. So we doubled up some king studs and put those up, and then we started putting up the jack studs as well. And now I'm putting together the header that will go over the entryway door. There will also be a window that goes over this door, so there'll be a secondary header that goes up top, but I don't need to worry about building that just now. So just getting this header in, again, having an extra pair of hands is really helpful, especially for this longer one, because this one's it's almost 5 feet, or maybe actually a little bit more than 5 feet across to accommodate the entryway door that'll also have some side lights on it as well. There won't be any windows on either of those side walls because this will act primarily as the entryway and mudroom. So on either side, once you walk in, we'll have some benches and some cubbies and hangers for coats and things like that. But that gets all of that out of the sort of the main body of the house and tucks it into this little entryway section, which will be nice just for coming in and dropping off coats and groceries or whatever we need to do. Normally when you build a wall like this, you do the layout on the bottom plate and then transfer that layout to the top plate so that you know that your studs are level. But honestly, I've just never figured out a good way to do that when the top plate is raked or when it has an angle to it. So doing those in place seemed to make the most sense as well. Again, just having an extra pair of hands here is enormously helpful because they can hold the measuring tape or the string line. We had a laser, but because it was sunny, we couldn't get a read on the laser at the top, but we could get it on that middle brace. And from there, we just used a string line on each to mark the level spot on the top plate, and then we made all the measurements and then did all of our cuts at once, and then we'll put in all of these side studs. One thing to be a little bit careful about when you're doing all of those measurements at once is that the top plate that you're measuring to is pretty flat. This one had a little bit of a bow in it, didn't have any adverse effects to our measuring, but it's definitely something to think about. And that's why I always tend to secure the middle stud first in a run like this, because that sets the top plate flat for the remainder of the studs that we're putting in and allows us to sort of make sure that our measurements are correct. And if we need to trim a little bit because that top plate was a little bowed when we did our measurements, we can do that. But otherwise, it goes pretty smoothly in this fashion. And you probably can't tell from here, but we've only done the the wall studs on the left wall. We haven't done them on the other wall yet because I only have my neighbor for a couple more hours. So we wanted to attack the rafters and at least get a couple up so that I could double check the measurements, the heights, the cuts for the bird mouths, and the angle going back into the roof. Once I get all of that, then I can put up the rest pretty well by myself. And now I'm back on my own and putting up the other wall studs for the right side wall, and then I'll tackle the remainder of the rafters. Because I had done all of the measurements and marked the layout on the top plate for this rake wall while my neighbors were still here, all I had to do really was just cut these and throw them up, and again, that made it pretty easy and pretty quick. So now this is pretty much fully framed except for that window that'll go above the entryway, but like I said, I can tackle that a little bit later. I'm really trying to get this entryway done so that I can finish up the roofing and get the roofers out here to get the final roof on, which is the primary goal at the moment. I did have a question about how this flat roof moving back into another flat roof is going to deal with water transfer when it's raining. And between these two flat roofs in the valley where they meet, we're going to create what's called a cricket. And basically what that means is it's like a mini gable. And what it's going to do is any water coming from either direction is going to get pushed on to the main roof so that it hits the gutters at the front. There aren't going to be any gutters anywhere except at the front of the house because it's a single pitch roof. And now you can see how the rafters have come back and tied into the main roof. So I have a 2x12 and a 2x8, I think, laid out so that we can catch the full bearing of the roof rafters. And that will provide ample security. And those plates, those bottom plates for the roof, are attached to the roof rafters underneath. So it's got a really strong connection, and that will allow for me to finish up the little walls in between, which is what I'm doing now. And then ultimately I'll put eaves around this, and that will be really the last thing I need to do except to build the cricket before we can get the roofers out here. Cutting these studs with double angles can seem a little daunting at first, but if you just remember that that stud is vertical, and because the stud is vertical, the bottom cut is going to be equal to the angle for the 3.5 12 pitch, and the top cut is going to be equal to the angle for the 1.5 12 pitch. So that's 16 1/4 degrees at the bottom and about 8 degrees at the top. And so if you remember that, then it's really pretty simple to put them together. You just need to make sure that it falls on your layout pretty well. And next time we'll take a look at raising the posts on the porch where this roof will get extended to so that we'll have coverage on the porch. But this is where I'm at. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.